Growing up, I think, was fairly typical in my eyes of what a standard good Christian grows up like. It wasn't until later years that I realized how broken things were and the other dynamics of our family and how they weren't what God wanted for us. My relationship with my oldest brother was never great. Our growing up years, I was always the tag along. I wanted to be included with him and his friends, and that's not what he wanted. There was no love, there was no sense of friendship. It was pretty broken. When he moved to Calgary, kills me to say, but I really wasn't sad to see him go. I was close with my dad growing up, but not in the sense that he was my friend or that my confidant that I could go to and talk to. And my dad definitely struggled with anger, and I see that in my life. Growing up, it was second nature. As a child, it wasn't just anger, it was instigated out of this sense of anger and frustration that none of us knew how to deal with. When I initially signed up for Freedom Session, I really wasn't doing it for myself. At the time, I was in a relationship, and she wanted to, and she wanted us to both do it. I thought it was a great idea for her, but I felt I had dealt with a lot of my issues. I was definitely wrong. I think the biggest breakthrough moment in Freedom Session was learning how to identify what Freedom Session calls your drug of choice. And for me, one of my drugs of choice was anger outbursts. As I was going through Freedom Session was when I was renovating my house, and that was often the most frequent times that me and my dad would be doing something, working on a project, and something would happen. I would get frustrated, he would get frustrated, the other person would just escalate it, and then it would be a full-on blowout. I think the biggest breakthrough for me was seeing those situations coming and not letting myself go down that path again, saying it's not the life I wanted to live, and learning how to de-escalate that and realizing that there is hope, that saying this is who I am and who I'll always be doesn't have to be true. And my relationship with my oldest brother is the craziest thing. That was a huge part of Freedom Session for me, was making amends with him. So I wrote him a long Facebook message. It was really hard for me to type that out and be vulnerable like that. Him and his wife had both read my message, and he said it had brought them both to tears, and he just apologized for his side of the relationship. And hearing him and his apology was probably one of the coolest things. It really felt like I had a brother again. My relationship with my father is definitely not perfect, but we're definitely working on it. The fact that we can work on projects and we can do things together and see those moments of stress that still arise, they still happen, but I see the road signs and I go down a different path. If I hadn't taken Freedom Session, not only would my relationship with my brother and my dad be different, but I think the whole dynamic in our family would be different. I feel like Freedom Session was a turning point that allowed us all to identify that things were not okay and that no one was really okay with how things were going, but that was the course we were on, and we needed something to change that. The conversations that came out of Freedom Session within my family then were huge and fundamental in the healing process. My life moving forward after Freedom Session will involve healthier relationships, specifically with my dad and my oldest brother. And for that, I'm so excited.